Now, in my mind, I am totting up how much my next guest's visit to this radio station is costing him, because his name is James Caan. He is running... How many businesses did you say you're running at the moment?
Just 40 at the moment,
right.
So not too bad.
In your own mind, in all seriousness, do you tot up? You'll be here till 11:30. Because your time is worth money.
It absolutely is. But, I don't tot up the time that I enjoy, which is times like this. So this is about pleasure, not about making money, because life's not just about making money, is it?
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. I mean, you clearly are an incredibly driven man. Are you driven towards money or towards success or something else?
I mean, when I first started my business, it was very much about, when I had nothing and I was just on the beginnings where, I was literally having to earn money to pay the rent and to start my business. It was very much about trying to build a future and provide a better life for my kids, etc. And it was very much about that. But I suppose when you get to a position where, your kids go to a good school and you have a nice home and you have all the other bits and pieces, it obviously isn't about money, because money in itself then doesn't really change anything. So today, for me, it's not driven about money. It's about trying to do the things that I really enjoy doing. And I'm in a very unique position where I love my job. I love the businesses that I'm involved with, and I'm very driven by the entrepreneurs that I back, because I really, really want them to be successful. So you spend your time really with these young and budding entrepreneurs because you've invested in them and you want them to enjoy the success that maybe I've had. So my motivation today is more about creating success through other people.
One of the reasons why we're talking to you this morning is because of the book you've got out, and the book, which is Get the Job You Really Want, really seems to have been inspired, certainly from what I've read in the book, of this constant stream of people who ask you for advice.
Sure. But also I think, we're in a very difficult economic environment right now where jobs are pretty difficult to get. And because, I've grown up building recruitment companies, one of the companies that I started where I came up with an idea to start a headhunting firm, and I launched a business called Humana International, and I grew that to 147 offices in 30 countries around the world. And my experience of placing thousands of people has taught me that people sometimes underestimate the preparation that you have to make when you apply for a job. And I still to this day interview loads of people, and consistently I'm very surprised at just the lack of preparation that they do. And when you consider getting the right job changes your life, I'm just constantly surprised that people should take more time to do that preparation. So the book is really about those gems that I'm really sharing, that I've learned, where people have done things that are out of the ordinary that help them secure the job that they really wanted.
One of the most interesting things I learned in the book was the idea that you may not understand that the skills you have won't necessarily be restricted to the job you currently do. So if you lose your job tomorrow in whatever job you work in, say you work in an accountancy firm, and you think, actually, I cannot find another job as an accountant, you say, which I think actually makes sense, but I don't think most people think of it. Don't think about the job you do. Think of the skills you have.
Absolutely right.
And you tell an interesting story about a woman who'd been trying to find a job for 9 months. She'd been sending off CVs, had been totally unsuccessful. And you took her away and just said, right, these are the things you do. This job is perfect for you. She didn't even think about it. Was it a I can't remember what it was now. It was a
head receptionist in a business centre.
That's right.
And she was in travel. So I think what I talk about there is transferable skills that people, because one of the things that I find difficult today is because business in general has changed so much. So many industries that we used to have don't exist anymore. So and travel is a great example, because travel in the days when I was growing up was just high street shops. You walk in and you went to a travel agent and they organised everything. But today, that's all online now. So what's happened to those thousands of people who worked in travel agents? And what I talk about is the principle of transferable skills, to say, what skills did you have to do that job, and how compatible are those skills in other industries, and help the reader understand what other industries could they be in that will secure them a job that they probably hadn't even thought of. And even if I look at the career that I started, recruitment wasn't something that I thought would be for me, but my skills were very relevant to that industry, And my God, it turned out to be amazingly successful. So, the $64 million question is, could there be an industry out there that's just right for you that you didn't know about?
And then I got depressed, because then you use this word beginning with R, and it says you've got to be realistic. so then you think, well, I would actually like to be Prime Minister or run a multi-million-dollar empire in the world of oil or whatever indeed. And then you say, no, James says you've got to be realistic. So when do you make sure that realism is there but it doesn't deflate your confidence?
Because I think you go back to the skill set. Now, the skill set required to be the Prime Minister, I think you would certainly need a shirt and tie, which you clearly don't possess. So, I think that the transferable skills have to be relevant. So it's not just aspiration, it's about reality. So, if I'm going to be in an industry, do I have that skill set? Do I have those characteristics? Do I have the background? So it's really understanding who you are and the things that you naturally do very well.
Can we talk about who James Caan is? Because one of the things that I sent an email to a friend of mine, and I said you were on the programme today, she said, "Oh, now that is the nice dragon," because he doesn't seem to judge emotionally. He just says whether he likes it or not. He doesn't make personal comments about the individuals who do it. And I wonder whether she is right to describe you as the nice dragon. Can you be as successful as you are, 40 companies that you're running, incredibly successful in terms of finance and your own life, but be a nice member of society?
I think that clearly in my world, I think you can, because even in the den, I don't think you have to belittle somebody. I don't think you have to be overly aggressive, because in the real world, when somebody comes to see me and they present an idea which strangely enough, I get almost daily, I wouldn't say to somebody, look, I think you're an idiot, or go home and go back to sleep and turn the lights off.
How many times do you want to, though, even though you don't?
I think, I suppose that the thing for me is, it wasn't that long ago when I also had nothing, and I was that, aspiring entrepreneur who's desperately trying to make it. And in a way, sometimes I think what's really important is you should never forget that you too were in a position one day when it wasn't very easy, and giving people that little bit of hope. And I think what I'm really conscious about is, if you deflate somebody and say to them, you're an idiot, or it's no good, or don't do it, in a way, you're putting them off being the entrepreneur they want to be. And the thing that I've learned is your first idea is not always your best idea. So if you knock them down really badly, they don't get up again, because they think it's not for me. And I don't believe it's not for you. What I do believe is that particular idea may not be right, but at least give them the enthusiasm to try again. So, and that's one of the reasons in the den, I wasn't really comfortable in just doing it for TV, just to make great TV, because fundamentally I wouldn't want to be treated like that myself. And I think, my mother consistently used to remind us that, you should always treat people how you'd like to be treated yourself. And, those kind of words have regrettably not left me. So, and it's how I treat my children. So I think to be a member of society, sometimes basic, simple moral values, I think, are quite important.
Can I ask you about your own drive? Because you're working today later. You said you're going to go into the office because it's in your diary, and your diary is gospel. What's in your diary, you do. But do you keep that in every stage of your life? Are you constantly competitive?
I think, that's more to me about your DNA. I think you're either that sort of person or you're not. And when I technically retired, when I was 42, I sold all my businesses and essentially stopped working, and I had 18 months off where, I went back to school, and I went to Harvard and I did a degree there, and decided to buy a place in the south of France and just grow my hair, and that kind of looked a bit like you, really,
But you're getting yours cut today, so
so I had a year out, and it just wasn't me. I just couldn't sit and not do anything. So I am just a very driven, highly motivated individual. And I suppose, like a lot of people, I like and want to win. And if I do something, I want to do it really well. And I suppose that's just my DNA.
One of the things you wrote in the book is you said that when you left having the luxury of an assistant who was on site is you suddenly discovered the things you couldn't do. And you tell a story about how tough you found it, not understanding PowerPoint and having... Is it really true, or was it just for book's sake that you had to ring somebody up? The computer's not working. Yes, James, you've got to switch it on.
No, that was very... No, because if you imagine, there I was running this huge international company. I'd walk into my head office. We had hundreds of people. I had a team of 4 PAs. I'd walk in and my computer was on. The emails were printed out on my desk and I'd never turned it on. I mean, when I sold my company, I remember literally looking in my pocket. I didn't have any money. And I thought, normally I'd give my PA my credit card and she'd go and get the cash from... I'd never been to a cash point. But why would I really? So all those silly things like how do you go to the cash point? Or, when you turn on a computer, there's an on and off button. And also then it's more technical. You need a password, which I didn't even know what my password was. So for me, it was a great wake-up call to say... Welcome to the real world.
Do you remember your first PowerPoint presentation you did on your own?
I did, very much so.
What was it for?
It was actually about me. When I sold my business, I came up with an idea myself that I was going to pitch the bank with, and I had never done PowerPoint. I had absolutely no idea how you do that, and frankly, it wasn't particularly good either. I mean, it looked a bit DIY-ish, and it was just a concept of how to set up a business centre, which was an idea that I had. And I went to the bank and pitched the idea, and unfortunately they said no.
When I went abroad about a year and a half ago, we went to the middle of nowhere and we saw a branch of a very famous high street store. And I looked at it and all I could think about was the guy who ran this store is somewhere else in the world. He's probably fast asleep and he may have no idea that store even exists in this godforsaken part of the world I was in. And I wonder, for you're running 40 companies. How detailed are you in what your companies are doing? And does it worry you that you can't have that almost control freakery that you must have had in the early days to say, I must know what's happening everywhere now?
I mean, as much as your desire may be to want to know, how much did that, shop in I don't know, godforsaken place, whoever it is. The truth is, I've kind of got beyond that now because I'm very lucky. I have some amazing people who run the business I have. And I'm in an unusual position. I don't back businesses. I tend to back people. And because I'm so passionate about the people who work with me, and I genuinely, back them, I trust them. And if they're running the business and they're doing a great job, it doesn't really worry me. I don't really think about, we have businesses literally and offices all over the world, half of which I've never even been to, half of which I don't even know where they are. Because it's not for me to know that. I back a chief executive, he runs the company, he makes those decisions, and my job really is to invest and mentor him, not necessarily to worry about, did that shop in Ibiza take any money or not. So I think just over time and maturity, you get to a level where that probably isn't as much of an obsession as it was in the beginning.
Can we talk about this country? We see in the papers rising levels of youth unemployment. There are concerns about a whole generation of young people who might not work till the age of 25. They'll have pretty large loans to pay off because of university debt. Where do you feel we're going in this country?
I think where we should be going is I think we should be focusing on buying the book that says get the job you really want, because those
Have I
people...
not mentioned it enough? I'm so sorry, James.
I think the book actually has those words of wisdom. And I think, if we are concerned about youth unemployment, which we clearly are, and I'm very passionate about, that was what the thing that really inspired me to write the book. And I think it's not just about youth. I think whether somebody emailed me the other day who bought the book. He was 73, and he thought actually that he wasn't going to work again because he couldn't get a job. And his daughter happened to have bought the book for herself, gave it to him. He read the book and actually inspired him to think, maybe I should try and get a job. And I was ecstatic when he sent me an email and said he'd got himself a job. So, I think there are people out there, and I think to get the economy of this country right means we have to get our workforce, back into work. And that really is what the book's about. So, I couldn't plug it enough because I passionately believe in it.
It's great to meet you. I know you've got your haircut later because it's in your diary. Who keeps your diary? Because it sounds like whoever he or she is does an incredibly wonderful job.
I have a girl called Amelia who's outstanding, and she micromanages my time 7 days a week. So this is a plug for you, Amelia. Thank you very much for looking after me.
She's also told me you've got to leave at 11:30.
Clearly.
Which is the time now. James, the book is called Get the Job You Really Want. It's published by Penguin and it's priced at £12.99. It's great to meet you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for joining us live on the programme.